let me tell you this story. Picture it. It's December of the year 2000. So just 8 months before 9/11. I'm hosting one of the most popular television programs in Toronto. Okay? And I'm totally exhausted this one December afternoon because I have been working my fingers to the bone to get all of these deadlines met. So I am dog tired and I need a distraction. I find it in the form of an envelope sitting on my desk at work. Now, that envelope wasn't there only 10 minutes ago. And guess what? It has my boss's handwriting on it. So what's the deal? Am I fired? What's going on? I nervously walk over to the envelope, open it up, reach inside, and pull out this newspaper clipping. This clipping from the Globe and Mail tells the story of a 17-year-old Muslim girl in the African nation of Nigeria. Now, this girl stands accused of having premarital sex, even though she has actually proved that she's been raped. And in bright red ink, my boss writes on the side of the story a truly politically incorrect question. He writes, "Irshad, one of these days will you tell me how you reconcile this kind of insanity with your Muslim faith?" Woohoo! Not exactly the kind of question you expect in a multicultural society, right? Where it's always supposed to be live and let live. Well, I'm offended by this question. So I neatly fold up the clipping, put it back into the envelope, and mutter under my breath, "How dare you? Who are you to question my religion?" You know what? I wouldn't applaud for that. I wouldn't applaud for that at all, and I'll tell you why. My answer, "Who are you to question my religion?" was a total cop-out. It was a non-answer. It was an excuse to do nothing and to wallow in passivity. And you know how I know this? Because my conscience told me so. Hours later, I had to confront the fact that something was eating away at my soul. And I had to face what was happening to me. And let me tell you what I think was happening. My identity as a Muslim told me to get defensive. But, my friends, there is something much more important than identity today. And that is integrity. It means that you are authentic. Having integrity means that you're being honest with yourself, with your family, and with the world. And my integrity as a human being told me it was right to ask this question. And it was right for my conscience to be shaken by it. Yours would have been too, I'll bet. Because we're talking about a 17-year-old Muslim girl. Her dignity has already been violated by the fact that she's been raped. And you want to talk courage? I'll give you courage. She went to the trouble of rounding up not one, not even four, but 7 male witnesses to the crime against her. That takes guts. All right? That takes a lot of guts. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. She was still condemned to 100 whippings, 100 lashes, even though she'd actually proved that she is innocent of any crime. How's that for justice? Is that good for you? I'm sorry, one more time? No, and it wasn't good for me either. Not as a Muslim and not as a global citizen. And from that crisis of conscience emerged my commitment to speak truth to power, no matter who is offended. Now, I've told you about the negative consequences, the death threats. I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm alive and well. I'm here, and I love being here. But I'm going to tell you about the positive consequences of speaking truth to power. The positive consequences include the fact that now hundreds of thousands of young Muslims around the world know that when they're searching for freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, freedom of expression, they are not alone. They have an ally in a privileged country like Canada to help them find their voices. And they need a lot more allies than me, my friends. Okay? And in fact, when I say that we're talking hundreds of thousands of young Muslims, I'm not just playing a guessing game. My book has been translated into Arabic and posted on my website to download free of charge. In just this past year, there have been more than 250,000 downloads, more than 250,000 downloads, and counting. That's what Dallaire was referring to when we said we now have the power to communicate with the entire world, something his generation could never even conceive of, and we've got the privilege to do. Are you with me? That is the power of asking questions out loud, and that is the power of embracing the questions that are asked of you, even when they momentarily offend you. Let that offense be the start of an amazing conversation. Now, I'm going to keep it real. I'm not interested in sanitizing anything. I'm not interested in being too romantic about any of this, okay? So I'm going to remind you that when you call for justice within your own community, and not just from the outside world, you know you're going to make people really mad at you. You just got to accept that. But when you do that, don't despair, because you will be standing on the shoulders of some of the greatest social reformers of our time. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the amazing civil rights activist. The amazing civil rights activist in the United States. He was accused by members of the black clergy for creating, quote, needless tension. And rather than run away from that accusation, Dr. King faced it head on. He wrote something called the Letter from a Birmingham Jail. And in that letter, he said to his fellow African Americans, he said, I must confess that I am not afraid of the word tension. I have earnestly opposed violent tension, but there is a type of constructive, nonviolent tension that is necessary for growth. And he wasn't talking about the growth of white society. He was talking about the growth of African Americans. In other words, my friends, this so-called needless tension that he was causing was actually an act of faith in his community, not an act of betrayal. Because he was raising the bar higher. He expected more from his own. And he said, you can be better. You are better than even your own Christian ministers are giving you the credit for. You gotta love a guy like that.